Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Woo-hoo! People are having so much fun socializing. They're out in the courtyard. Just go scream, "Welcome back," out into the courtyard. It's wonderful to have all of you who are here in person today. Really, really wonderful. It has been 10 weeks since just before Christmas that we had to go back into live stream only. And so it is such a blessing to have you here, and welcome all of you who are joining us from home, as always. All of us who are speaking today have had antigen tests just before the service, just so you know, for your own well-being. We're asking everyone to stay masked during service, which means also just keep it over your nose. Otherwise, it's just a very unattractive decoration on your face. And 6 feet, if you can manage it, of social distance. And with the approval of our COVID advisory team of scientists and medical people, we are gonna sing today too. So everybody can feel comfortable, we think, singing together. So a lot of gorgeous firsts this morning. For those of you who are visiting for the first time, I'm Vanessa Southern. I'm the senior minister of this community, the First Unitarian Universalist Society of San Francisco, and I am blessed to be up here this morning with lots of people, but the person you might not recognize right away is the Reverend Vail Weller. Vail is the Congregational Giving Director for our denomination, for the Unitarian Universalist Association, and she happens to be a Bay Area person, having served the San Mateo congregation for 8 years. And so we're lucky to have her and her husband, Reverend Usher. It's hard to see with all these masks here also, who's preached here recently, so you probably know David without his mask, maybe. And it's great to have him, and Vail's father is here too, and a family friend, so we're really happy to have all of you here with us. And of course, I am lucky to have with me this morning also 2 people that you know as the worship associates, Wonder Dave and Sam King, but you'll hear something else they've been up to lately if you're not already aware. Of course, I feel like we can't stand here this morning without just acknowledging that we are, and taking a breath, that we are in a place on a journey which it occurred to some of us who were talking about where we feel like we are right now as a community, that it's been this sort of journey through a forest, you know, like on a hike or a walk where you can see only so far, and you're discovering a little bit of where you're going as you go, and making discoveries and maybe having some challenges along the way. And that being the case, I think it's important today to acknowledge some people who have been part of the journey, particularly the journey when we were in lockdown these last, stay at home, or at least not here and worship together. Reiko Odelaine, who we heard on a recording this morning because she is taking some time appropriately, having lost her husband tragically just a couple weeks ago. But Reiko was a regular part of our time when it was just a few of us in the sanctuary. If any of you saw the video that Jonathan put together to sort of capture what it felt like in those moments. Of course, Mark Sumner also pulling together beautiful music despite all of the challenges of trying to do that and honor people's safety, the singers and the participants in worship. Jonathan Silk, who's been the man behind the curtain in the land of Oz, making magic happen. Yay, Jonathan Silk. Joe Chapeau, who's been your lifeline if you had questions, especially early on about how to get linked in, and guiding us through the process, making sure you had an order of service. Our incredible coffee hour hosts who made connecting possible as close as we could come. Alex Starr, who immediately set that up, and then Les James and Tom Brookshire, who joined him in finding ways for us to gather after worship and be in conversation. Our sextons, Robert Delau, who was here every Sunday. I was his Uber driver, all the windows open, fully masked, here every Sunday that we were here during COVID. And then later joined by Thomas Brown and Lee Jones, and now most recently by Remigio Flood and Kelvin Jones, to sort of make sure the building was available and ready for us to do whatever we needed to do that day. You know, we've had these flower goddesses Judy Payne and Amy Kelly and Carrie Steer Salazar, and most recently Athena Papadakos, making sure that the space looked gorgeous and not abandoned and depressing, but in fact vibrant. We've had so many people who have made all of this possible. We've had our amazing soloists, and the core group of those through our time was Asher Davidson, Leandra Ram, Brielle Marina Nielsen, and Ben Rudiak Gould. And they were singing masked and indoors and then in their own private studios. And I mean, the madness we put them through. And we have had two people who have been, first Eric Shackelford, and very soon joined by Shuli Ong. Eric, a professional camera person, mostly covering sports. Shuli Ong, among her many gifts, a documentary filmmaker, who were bringing as much life to the service as they could and capturing it as much so that you could feel present. And when we were thinking about thanking them, and we were going to thank them in December, and then they both weren't here on the same Sunday after the gifts arrived, we brainstormed, so like we're in this thing and we're all alone, and it feels like we're in a studio sometimes. And we're imagining all of you, and your emails and texts were so powerful that we thought, well, maybe it's like we were doing a production, Pandemic Church. So I found online some awards that we could give them. The whole staff has already gotten theirs because at the Christmas party, I needed to give them, but Shuli and Eric, can you come here from behind the cameras to receive your award and your applause? All right, I'm bringing it to you then. Okay. See, people behind the cameras don't often want to be in front of the cameras, so this is a little challenging. There we go. Thank you both for, I don't know where you set the camera, but you do, for what you made possible. The idea of these is that you have something to put wherever you want to put it, on your bookshelf, to remember what you both made possible for everybody, those here and all of the people who we can't see right now, who said that coming to worship and being together was something that got them through and feeling connected, and that the fact that it felt so real and so normal in a strange way was part of what fed them in this time. And you two are here every week, so thank you. I think. Thank you. So Shuli got Best Pandemic Visual Effects this year, and Eric got Best Pandemic Cinematography. And I have ones for the soloists. Some of them I already managed to give them out, but I have Bill Gans. Bill Gans also, who was part of our pandemic team in accompanying, and Brielle. Where are you, Brielle? Okay. All right, I'm coming to you. For your gorgeous voice that brought beauty and solace and inspiration to our lives. Yeah, I'm hugging.
Hug me.
All right. Bill's not here. I don't see Bill. All right. So now, in the world of firsts, another first, we will greet one another. You can do elbow bumps. You can do namaste, whatever you feel comfortable. Greet one another. Remember how to do that? How did we do that? All right, let's start singing our first hymn. It's Morning Has Broken. You got a preview in the prelude today. Like the first day, woo!
Please join me in our unison chalice lighting. We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the fire of commitment. We light this symbol of our faith as we gather together.
Good morning again. If you are with us for the first time, I hope you get a copy of the order of service and follow along. Fill out our connections forms so that we can keep you posted about things going on in the congregation's life and your invitations to participate in any or all of them that sound of interest to you. We want all of you who are here in the Bay Area, but also who have begun to join us from beyond the Bay Area, to know that we can be part of one community. We have especially learned this last couple years how to expand our sense of connection and community. There are opportunities for everybody. I hope you see them regularly to deepen your spiritual practice, to study and engage in deeper study of the issues of the world or questions, the deepest questions of life, and then to serve the way we're always called to when we deepen in wisdom and compassion. Our offering this week, and normally we don't take offerings for outside groups during our annual giving month, but this week seemed an important time to make an exception with the events in Ukraine and the humanitarian crisis of war that has at least 1 million refugees and counting. And so our offering will go to support the International Rescue Committee in their work to support the Ukrainian refugees. So I invite you to give generously. There are baskets. I don't think we're yet up and running in all the ways we normally are, and so we'll have a moment of the offering for those who are remote. You can give remotely that way, but also there are baskets, so as you leave, you can give your offering. Thank you in advance. I want to actually just, sorry, I realize I think I made you greet each other too quickly. So that really was a first on many levels. I think that concludes our morning announcements. There will still be both a Zoom hour this morning, just so all of you know who are joining us remotely, but also a time to gather outside in the courtyard in person for those of you who are here, and cake to celebrate the occasion. We're going to deepen in worship this morning. Through the words and the music of number 402 in the Gray Hymnal, which is "From You I Receive." Mark, I don't know if you want to say some words.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
Now please join me in saying the words of our covenant and singing our doxology. The words are printed in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another.
Recognizing there is human suffering all over this world in the course of natural and human catastrophes, we ring our gong today in honor of 3 such places of suffering and struggle. We ring our gong first, as we have since July of 2019, for those lives held in federal custody in our detention camps, for the struggles at our borders and all realities in our nation that speak of a disregard for human life that reflects the xenophobia, racism, and greed that threads throughout our nation's history. We ring our gong 7 times for this week of days, bearing witness to the ongoing spiritual tear in the fabric of our shared lives that calls us to dismantle systems of oppression and live into larger love. We ring our gong one time, additionally, for the losses to COVID-19 this week. 48,475 lives were lost in the world this week to this virus. 8,473 in the United States, a decrease in our nation of 27%. And for the slow lifting of ourselves back into life after 2 years of traumatic and challenging chapters, each different for each of our families and also united across difference. And we ring our gong once for the people of the nation of Ukraine, for cities under siege, for a continent bearing the fallout of this unnecessary war, and for all who will be lost, all who have been lost, all that is already lost in this corner of the world. We ring our gong this last time then for the loss and in solidarity with the people of Ukraine. May we keep all those we have named and their loved ones in our thoughts and in our prayers. And may we ease the tide of human suffering this coming week, howsoever we can. If you aren't already here, I invite you to bring yourself to this moment, whatever that means for you. I invite you to imagine letting your guard down a little or setting it just to the side, the way you started to after that first vaccination shot, then a little more after the second. Feel life seeping in through your feet that touch and are anchored to the earth. Feel the presence of others if you are here just an arm's length away, or maybe somewhere else in your home or the building or a neighbor, the way you feel folks at the restaurant or the grocery store, everyone a little more at ease in their skin, in community, connecting. Breathe in, deep. Breathe out. Breathe in peace. Breathe out love. Body enriched by air so plentiful, All of us are enveloped in it like an invisible ocean that serves life, that we move through, available at all times. Be present to the breath as a reminder of the grace that holds us to. A reminder of a world that speaks still of abundance, resilience, interdependence. Breathe in and let your guard down a little. Permit yourself the luxury of feeling alive a little more fully. Give yourself permission to come back a little more to yourself and to us. And now I invite us into a time of shared silence. Allow it to hold you and take you to the place of deep listening, where some of our deepest self offers itself up for attention. And now come back into this shared body, into this moment, into this morning that waits for us. Amen.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive.
This year, we sustained some losses to the community. I'm sure I'm not the only one, especially now that we're back in this space, who notices who isn't here as we come back together. Places that people used to sit, faces that used to greet us as we came in. One of those we lost was Shirley Gibson. And in preparing for the service that celebrated her life, her father, the Reverend Gordon Gibson, told the story of coming to visit Shirley when she had just moved to San Francisco after graduating from Reed College, and how she had just started coming to this church, and he was very excited that she was going to UU Church again, and how she told him when he came with her to church that she, who was only, 22, 23 at the time, had only been in the church for a few months, or so it seemed, that she'd been made chair of the annual giving campaign. And her dad said, I think maybe to himself and not out loud, "What the hell do you know about fundraising?" But she did a great job, as she always did, becoming, I think, one of the youngest board chairs ever. I think Linda Enger beat Shirley, becoming actually the youngest board chair that we know of in the history of the church. And so it seemed gorgeously fitting this year to have two of our young adult leaders, Sam King and Wonder Dave, two brilliant, lovely human beings who so many of us know as their presence in worship as worship associates, to serve as our co-annual giving chairs this year. So I want to welcome Sam and Wonder Dave and ask you to put your hands together and welcome them too.
It's really lovely to see you all in person. I don't know. Yay, I'm super happy about it. And it's also lovely to be with all of you who are at home joining us via live stream. I am so happy we've had this team who has been able to put this together so incredibly well for us. And Sam and I are really excited to be leading the annual giving campaign this year when we get to step into the next chapter of life. I'll tell you a little bit about myself if you don't know already. By trade, I am a stand-up comedian and a live event producer. And when the pandemic hit, I was unemployed. There was no job for me any longer. Until a friend of mine who knew I had done live event production reached out and asked if I wanted to use the skills I had in some other way. And thus began my work in October of 2020, running COVID testing sites around the Bay Area. I am more upset than anyone else that those skills are related, but here we are today. I've had a front row seat on what some of these last 2 years have asked of us. There were days we tested over 1,500 people. All of our staff were at risk, especially before we had vaccinations. It was a huge struggle, very stressful, and I saw so much bravery. And it wasn't just me that had made that career shift. I had other event producers alongside me, and so much community getting us all through an incredibly trying time.
My work wasn't on the front line, but I had just started a job in political tech before the pandemic, and now we're getting folks to do friends and family outreach to vaccine-hesitant folks in addition to get out the vote work. There's been a lot of struggle, a lot of hardship these past 2 years, but I've also seen some silver linings and possibility.
And it's the same with the church. Struggle and hardship and also silver linings and possibility. It is all of us with the staff who have seen it through to where we are, finding new ways to be together, expanding our live stream virtual ministry to reach out to over 730 subscribers. Side note, the church has never actually asked anyone to subscribe to their YouTube channel, but as a performer, like and subscribe. What are you doing? It's amazing. Taking almost all of our Sunday offerings throughout the pandemic for outside groups who needed us, hosting our unhoused neighbors this last month for additional time because they needed us to. Yeah, we're very excited. You can applaud for that. It's great. I'm thrilled. Because that's what churches should do, my friends. These are just some of the ways we have met the challenges of these times without letting go of a single staff member. And this last year, with rentals again reduced to a fraction of pre-pandemic times, we will make it through whole, but only because you all answered the call to a sacrificial level of giving. Last year, you all pledged $841,000 to keep this community and this institution whole and safe. Thank you for that incredible stretch and act of selflessness and commitment. You did great, yeah.
This year, we are hoping to get rentals up. Susie Bernahola has been doing amazing work with folks who want to use our space. And we don't expect, even with her magic, that we will be where we ideally would like to be. We also know that many of you cannot meet the level of giving that you made last year for a second year in a row. So what we are hoping is that each of you will do what you can. We think that those of you who gave generously last year and can continue to do so should do so. And those who need to step down their giving in order to take care of their own urgent needs should also do so. And those of you who are new among us, some of you out there that we may not even know, will be able to step into that commitment to give so that we have a chance of meeting our goal this year, which is $750,000. $750,000 will allow us not to lay off any staff, to keep our basic programming and building expenses paid, to do required maintenance and finish a few improvements, and to increase slightly the funding that we have for our social justice work. It's tight, it's close, it's a responsible budget for maintaining our strength. And we appreciate your efforts to help us meet it, but it will take all of us to do it. It's not a given.
When I came to my first service at UUSF 4 years ago, I wasn't exactly sure what to expect. I can say now that I've been delighted to find a community of people interested in both personal growth and the well-being of the community at large. When the church adopted the 8th principle, I was delighted to see this community work towards change to create a more just and equitable world. The commitment of leaders and lay people within this organization to actually take steps to dismantle white supremacy, including our own unconscious biases, within the congregation and in the world at large has been delightful to see blossom. Though I was admittedly slow to become a member of the church officially, 2 years is a reasonable trial period. I am proud to be more involved in the church today. I will be increasing my own donation this year because it turns out managing COVID test sites pays better than being a comedian. Who knew? And I am in a better financial place now. So I'm thrilled to be able to do this because I know that the world does not simply become a better place on its own. It does so because people make it happen. And I believe with all my heart that UUSF is filled with people committed to making the world better. It's why I decided I belonged here. My involvement didn't just happen magically, though. I stepped up to the plate because I was asked to join by people in this community, people like Sam and Vanessa and Joe. I was asked to join groups like the Young Adult Program, asked to protest, asked to be involved in just and charitable causes, asked to become a worship associate. And so today, it's my turn to do the asking. And I am asking all of you to help fund the good works of this church with your time, effort, and pocketbooks.
Many of you have seen me as well here as a worship associate. You've already heard that I care about our social justice work, the fact that we are one of relatively few spaces in the world that gets people to actually enact their values in the world, our values as Unitarian Universalists. Many of you have seen me in Sunday school spaces. You've already heard me talk about supporting the next generation, teaching them some of the things that I wish I knew at their age. But what's really important is the community. I'm lucky in a lot of ways, but this pandemic has still been rough. And when I felt lonely, when I felt at my wit's end, and when I really needed it, this community was here for me. And I want to be here for UUSF when UUSF needs me as well. So because I am fortunate enough to be in a stable position financially, and because this community means a lot to me, last year I increased my pledge, and this year I'm increasing my pledge by an additional 50%. And I ask you to look at your values, what this place, this community means to you, what you want to put out into the world, what foundation you want to set for the next generation, and please give as generously as you can to get us through this time, all the way through.
Sam and I will be outside at coffee hour. We have pledge forms. Today, the first 30 people who pledge get succulents, those plants that thrive through hard times. And if you pledge by next Sunday, March 13th, you'll be included in a raffle prize of a 3-night stay at Marty Vanderlin's Lake Tahoe vacation home. And for everyone who pledges, we ask you to take a leaf and write your name on it and put it up on our forest wall in the gallery. We also invite you to take a pen and write on the path that is on the bulletin board some of what this community has meant to you this last year. And there's cake.
In this journey through the forest, this path that unfolds, unfurls in twists and turns as we go, we've been surprised by beauty, warmed in sunlight, and caught our breath in the clearings, weathered storms, been changed by what we've experienced, but it is the companionship of all of us along the way that's gotten us through. Thank you all for that. Thank you for making this place possible, this place where we can find that community possible. And cheers as we go on this journey through the forest forward together, and see you all at coffee hour.
Thank you both. Our offering, those of you here, you can prepare it for when we leave. Those of you at home, you can use our online giving portal. Just mark it for today's special offering. And the date, March 6th, will go to help Ukrainian refugees through the International Rescue Committee. Thank you in advance for your generosity.
Concord,
This morning's reading is from Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants by Robin Wall Kimmerer. What should be our response to the generosity of the more than human world? In a world that gives us maple syrup, spotted salamanders, and sandhill cranes, shouldn't we at least pay attention? Paying attention is an ongoing act of reciprocity, the gift that keeps on giving, in which attention generates wonder, which generates more attention and more joy. Open and attentive, we see and feel equally the beauty and the wounds, the old growth and the clear cut, the mountain and the mine. Paying attention sharpens our ability to respond and to be responsible. Good morning, friends. Though I live relatively nearby in San Mateo, just down the peninsula, I have been spending a great deal of time at the home where I was raised with my mother and my stepfather as they negotiate the changes that come with age. Their house is where I was raised in the Ingomar neighborhood of the North Hills of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where the Shawnee and the Osage people originally lived. I am a part of that land, and I understand it, and it understands me. I grew up on Pine Road, where indeed there were and are tall pine trees that stand sentry, homes to hawks, crows, jays, and the occasional owl. To catch the bus for school, I walked up the street to Sunset Road, where indeed at close of day I could watch brilliant sunsets during the gloaming, looking down on the undulating green hills that provide the topography of my own being. Cardinals, robins, blue jays, hawks, deer, squirrels, chipmunks, orange jewelweed with exploding pods, sticky red yewberries, apple trees, fireflies, pine, sunset, my natural companions. I am a product of this place I describe. It shaped and formed me and gave me a sense of who I am in relationship to the land and the creatures, the air and waters around me. And I am just as much a product of the Unitarian Universalist congregation nearby that home in which I was raised. We are each a product of the places we have come from, and we are also intimately connected to the place in which we currently dwell. We are nourished by the air, water, food, and beings that surround us. The world feeds us warped messages about what really matters and about our worth. Through constant advertising, they estimate 10,000 ads reach us each day. Through constant advertising, we are told directly and subliminally that we don't have enough. We can't ever get enough. We can't ever keep enough. What if the truth were literally the opposite of these messages? In a book you may have heard about or read, Braiding Sweetgrass, from which I just quoted, the scientist, author, mother, professor, and member of the citizen Potawatomi Nation, Robin Wall Kimmerer, writes, "In a consumer society, contentment is a radical proposition. Recognizing abundance rather than scarcity undermines an economy that thrives by creating unmet desires. Gratitude cultivates an ethic of fullness, but the economy needs emptiness. Gratitude doesn't send you out shopping to find satisfaction. It comes as a gift rather than a commodity, subverting the foundation of the whole economy. Gratitude leads to contentment. Therefore, practice gratitude." Kimmerer writes, "Gratitude may seem like weak tea given the desperate challenges that lie before us, but it is powerful medicine, much more than a simple thank you. Giving thanks implies recognition not only of the gift, but of the giver. When I eat an apple, my gratitude is directed to that wide-armed tree whose tart offspring are now in my mouth, whose life has become my own. Gratitude is founded on the deep knowing that our very existence relies on the gifts of other beings. Our own health, the health of the planet, and the health of our congregations and communities depend on our ability to understand that our very existence relies on the gifts of other beings. Humans, of course, are only one thread in the garment of destiny, the brilliant tapestry of life, the ecosystem. For much of humans' time on the planet before the Great Delusion, we lived in cultures that understood the covenant of reciprocity, that for the earth to stay in balance, for the gifts to continue to flow, we must give back in equal measure for what we are given. For the earth to stay in balance, for the gifts to continue to flow, we must give back in equal measure for what we are given. We are entering into the season of stewardship here at the UUC Society of San Francisco, and so it befalls me now at this time to invite you to pay attention. Pay attention. Pay attention from week to week how this community actually shapes the living of your life, how the religious education offerings deepen your spirits and encourage your children to be more fully themselves. Pay attention to how the gorgeous music allows you to become part of something larger than yourself. Pay attention to how you feel when you sing with the choir or immerse yourself in organ music. Pay attention to how the messages offered by Reverend Vanessa stay with you through your days, how you are introduced to thinkers, writers, artists, activists, and regular people who inspire you to live more fully your highest values. Pay attention to how your friendships have developed and deepened over time here, how the community has held and cared for those going through the hardest of times. Pay attention to the resilience that was demonstrated by your church leaders through this pandemic, and to the ways in which the larger association supported all of our congregations. Pay attention to the fact that all of the staff members of the society were kept on payroll through COVID, an employment decision solidly based on UU principles. Pay attention to how this congregation blesses and is blessed by participation in the winter shelter program, feeding and sheltering 70 guests for more than 30 years. Pay attention to the ways in which racial justice work is happening and how your own understanding of dismantling oppression has grown and evolved. Pay attention to all that this community offers beyond what it does just for you. Pay attention to how acting for justice is done in the name of this congregation. Pay attention to how this congregation is making love visible. Pay attention because it is important for the city of San Francisco to have a strong, healthy, vibrant Unitarian Universalist presence. Robin Wall Kimmerer again writes, "It's so appropriate that we call it paying attention, for it is perhaps a near universal form of currency. It is exchangeable, it is valuable, and it incurs an expense on the part of the payer, for attention, we all know too well, is a limited resource. But once we pay attention, we can see and feel and know the real bounty that surrounds us. We can feel the enrichment of our lives, thanks to the gifts that constantly rain down on us without slowing or stopping. These are not material gifts, but the gifts of each moment, each breath, a sip of water when thirsty, a warm sunbeam when cold, the smile of another's eyes above a mask, the visitation of the crow on the fence post, the hummingbird drinking from the fuchsia, the branches of the tree providing shade in the heat, the moss softening the path, the brown grass on the hills slowly greening, the arrival of the poppies as the skies warm, the return of the berries to the farmer's market, the salmon coming home to spawn, the corn tortilla filled with warm beans and cheese, the music of the waves along the coast, the fog kissing the hills, the scent of the eucalyptus, jasmine, roses as we walk or roll along. Once we know the truth of our interconnectedness, we are moved to respond because we have been paying attention. When this community asks for annual pledges of commitment, it is then a sacred opportunity, for it allows us to enrich others as we have been enriched. But it's more than just about what we have received. It's also an opportunity to move in a direction other than the consumer mindset that would have us believe that it is what we buy or collect or hoard for the future that defines us. This is an opportunity to practice what it is to be in a gift economy. It is to receive the blessing that has been offered and then move that energy forward to transform it, like plants turn sunlight into energy. Kimmerer states, gifts from the earth or from each other establish a particular relationship, an obligation of sorts to give, to receive, to reciprocate. And writer Lewis Hyde notes, it is the cardinal difference between gift and commodity exchange that a gift establishes a feeling bond between two people. As we sang earlier and have often sung in our congregations, from you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live, which may be the most deeply theological piece in our hymnal. The fundamental nature of gifts is that they move, and their value increases with their passage. The more something is shared, the greater its value becomes. In the gift economy, gifts are not free. The essence of the gift is that it creates a set of relationships. The currency of a gift economy is, at root, reciprocity. In Western thinking, private land is understood to be a bundle of rights, whereas in a gift economy, property has a bundle of responsibilities attached. Your stewardship leaders wrote, "These last years have been a complicated time for us. It's like we've been wandering through a forest, and we found some bright spots and clearings along the way, but aren't out of the woods yet. As a community, we need to help each other through." So, affiliation with this congregation comes with a bundle of responsibilities, and these are sacred responsibilities because they allow us to demonstrate our interconnectedness, to practice paying attention, and to keep the energy of generosity flowing. As the warm air kisses your face, as the tree creates shade, as the bounty of the local farm provides your body fuel, as the music you hear opens your heart to both joy and grief, as you encounter animals who greet and cheer you, perhaps the world is enchanted. filled with a magical energy that animates all that lives. As your life has been expanded through this congregation, as you have become more yourself, as you have been brought into touch more closely with all that is sacred, you have received gifts. This congregation and these beings within it and those who have come before have given generously. Now you have the opportunity to keep moving that gift. When all the world is a gift in motion, how wealthy we become. May it be so, and amen.
And in that spirit, let's rise as you're able in body, spirit, and sing together our closing hymn, hymn number 128, For All That Is Our Life.
And so as you go out into the beautiful blessing of the world and go about living your life today, consider how you are part of an ecosystem, how you both give and receive blessings, and consider how you can keep the gift of generosity moving forward in many, 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 many ways. Go in peace and with great love.